My sister stole from me, framed me as a thief, turned my family against me, so I walked away, and left them with a lesson they'd never forget. I, a 26-year-old female now, 24 then, was living at home while finishing my physical therapy degree. I was busting my ass, working part-time at a rehab center, while trying to keep my grades up in my final year. It wasn't easy, but I was managing. Then my sister Amber, a 29-year-old female, moved back home after her divorce. She brought her daughter, Lily, a 7-year-old female, with her because her ex-husband cheated on her with some coworker, and she couldn't afford her own place afterward. My parents were super cool about it. They even converted Dad's home office into a bedroom for Lily. Growing up, Amber and I were actually pretty tight despite the 3-year age gap. She always had my back in school and even let me hang with her friends sometimes. But everything changed when she got pregnant and married her high school boyfriend at 19. She dropped out of college right after the wedding and became a stay-at-home mom. After that, we barely saw each other except during holidays and family stuff. When she moved back home after the divorce, I really tried to reconnect with her. I'd watch Lily when she needed to run errands or go to job interviews. I invited her to hang with me and my friends on weekends. I even helped her make a dating profile when she said she felt ready to move on. But something was off about her. She seemed super bitter and would get this weird look whenever I talked about school or my future plans. Looking back, there were so many red flags I totally missed. She started acting really weird a few months after moving back in. Whenever Mom would ask about her job search, she'd get all defensive. She'd disappear for hours on weekends, claiming she was at the library applying for jobs, but would come back with zero updates. She guarded her phone like it had the nuclear codes or something, always locked with a password, which was new for her. I didn't think much of it at the time. I figured she was just stressed from the divorce and trying to figure out life as a single mom. I was focused on my own stuff, finishing my degree, working at the rehab center, and trying to have some kind of social life with the little free time I had. There were these moments, though. I'd catch her giving me these weird looks when I talked about my future, or when our parents said something nice about my grades. Once I overheard her on the phone saying something like she's always been Mom and Dad's favorite, but not for long. I'm pretty sure she was talking about me, which made zero sense since I was working my ass off for everything I had. One night, I came home from my shift at the rehab center around midnight, and I found Amber in Dad's office, going through his desk drawers. When she saw me, she jumped like she'd seen a ghost and mumbled something about looking for stamps. It was weird, but I was too tired to think about it. I also started noticing small amounts of cash missing from my wallet. At first, I thought I was just spending more than I realized, but then I caught Amber coming out of my room one day when I came home early from class. She claimed she was borrowing a sweater, but nothing was in her hands. I started hiding my wallet after that, but I never confronted her because I didn't want to cause drama when everyone was finally getting along. The week before everything went to hell, Amber asked me to take Lily for the whole weekend because she had job interviews out of town. I agreed, even though I had a major project due. Lily and I had a great time. She's such a sweet kid. But when Amber came back Sunday night, she had a new designer purse and shoes. When I asked about the interviews, she gave super vague answers and changed the subject. Then came that Sunday morning when everything exploded. I'd worked late Saturday night and was sleeping in. Around 9 a.m., I woke up to screaming downstairs. At first, I thought Lily was throwing a tantrum, but then I heard Mom crying and Dad yelling. I ran downstairs in my pajamas to find Mom collapsed in her chair, sobbing, while Dad was red-faced, screaming at Amber. She was showing them something on her phone with this weird, satisfied look on her face. When they saw me, Mom started crying harder, and Dad looked at me with so much disgust I felt sick. Amber was claiming she'd found evidence that I'd been stealing money from our parents for months to pay for my tuition and partying. She showed them screenshots of what looked like bank transfers to my account and some receipts with my name on them. I stood there in complete shock as my parents and Amber stared back at me. My heart was racing so fast I thought it might burst. "What is this?" Dad demanded, his face turning red as he pointed at the phone. $55,000 missing from our account. I don't understand, I stammered, trying to make sense of what was happening. Amber stepped forward, that smug little smile playing at the corner of her lips. "I found something while using Mom's iPad. All these transfers to your account. Want to explain?" My stomach dropped as I glanced at the screen. The evidence looked convincing. Bank transfers with my name, dates, amounts. There were even text messages that looked like I'd sent them, confessing to taking the money. "That's not real," I practically shouted. "I never took any money from you guys. Those aren't even my texts." Mom wouldn't even look at me. She just sat there, sobbing into her hands, shoulders shaking. "How could you do this to us?" she whispered. "Mom, I didn't. I swear on my life." I felt tears welling up in my eyes. "This is all fake. Please, you have to believe me. Dad's face was a storm of anger and disappointment. $5,000, our retirement savings, your own parents. His voice cracked slightly, which somehow hurt worse than if he'd yelled. I frantically pulled out my phone, hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock it. Look, here are my bank statements. There are no deposits like that. You can see everything. Before my parents could even look, Amber shrugged casually. She probably has a secret account we don't know about. That's what I would do. The way she said it, so calculated, so rehearsed, made my blood run cold. But my parents weren't seeing it. They weren't seeing anything beyond their own shock and hurt. I can't believe you'd betray the family like this, Dad said, his voice low and dangerous. I was full-on crying now, desperate for them to just listen. Please, just call the bank. Check your actual statements. This isn't real. Why won't you at least investigate before believing the worst about me? Mom still wouldn't meet my eyes. She just kept mumbling through her tears. I raised a thief. What will we tell people? Dad pointed toward the stairs, his hand trembling slightly. You have 2 hours to pack your things and get out. No daughter of mine would steal from her own parents. Dad, please, I begged, my voice breaking. Mom, you've known me my whole life. Have I ever given you any reason not to trust me? Can we just talk about this? But it was like talking to a wall. Mom turned away completely, unable to even look at me. Dad just repeated, 2 hours, not a minute more, before walking out of the room. I stood there, sobbing, watching my entire life crumble around me. Through my tears, I could see Amber watching the whole scene with that satisfied smile, like she'd just won some sick game I didn't even know we were playing. Through my tears, I called my best friend, Zoe. She came over right away to help me pack. I could only take what would fit in 2 suitcases, mostly clothes and important documents like my birth certificate and passport. As I was leaving, Amber had the nerve to hug me and whisper, "Don't worry about Lily. I'll make sure she's taken care of." The way she said it made my skin crawl, but I was too upset to process what she meant. After my parents kicked me out, Zoe and her parents let me stay in their guest room while I figured stuff out. My parents blocked my number and email immediately. They even blocked me on all social media. Like, who does that to their own kid without even investigating properly? Amber took it a step further and spread the story to our whole extended family. Within days, I was getting these horrible messages from aunts and cousins, calling me a thief and saying how disappointed they were in me. My uncle even messaged me saying I should be ashamed of myself for stealing from people who gave me everything. It was like a freaking witch hunt. Only my grandma stood by me. She straight up told my parents she didn't believe Amber's lies because she knew what kind of person I was. My parents threatened to cut contact with her if she helped me, but she still secretly visited me and sometimes brought groceries. Grandma's a real one. The timing of all this couldn't have been worse. I was in my final semester with clinicals and exams coming up. I had to somehow find a place to live and work enough hours to support myself while finishing my degree. There were nights I legit cried myself to sleep, wondering why my sister would do this to me. Like, what did I ever do to deserve this level of betrayal? Zoe's parents helped me get an apartment by co-signing my lease, since I didn't have much credit history. I picked up extra shifts at the rehab center, sometimes working 40+ hours a week while doing clinicals. I was exhausted all the time but didn't have a choice. I had to eat and pay rent somehow. The worst part was all the random stuff I realized I didn't have after moving out. Like, I didn't have a freaking can opener or enough towels or sheets for my bed. All these little things you take for granted when you live at home. I was so broke, I was eating ramen for like 5 days straight sometimes. I lost like 15 pounds that first month. My professors were actually pretty cool when I explained my situation. One of them even let me use the department's printer for free when I needed to print assignments because I couldn't afford a printer. My clinical supervisor let me adjust my hours so I could pick up more shifts at work. Small kindnesses like that kept me going. I graduated 6 months later. My parents and Amber didn't come, obviously. My grandma came early to avoid seeing them, and Zoe's whole family was there, cheering for me. It meant a lot, but it still hurt seeing all my classmates with their proud parents taking pictures while I had this weird, makeshift family. I got hired full-time at a sports medicine clinic where I did my clinicals. The pay was decent enough that I could finally afford more than just ramen and rent. I even splurged and bought myself a used car, so I didn't have to take the bus to work anymore. It was a piece of crap 2005 Honda Civic with 180,000 miles on it, but it was mine. About a month after I got kicked out, something weird happened. My grandma called, saying Amber had just up and left. Apparently, she told my parents she found an amazing job opportunity in another state and would send for Lily once she was settled. She took most of her stuff but left Lily behind with my parents. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Amber would call occasionally with excuses about why she couldn't send for Lily yet. The apartment fell through. The job wasn't as stable as she thought. She needed to find a good school district first. Always some excuse. That's when I realized what she meant when she whispered, "Don't worry about Lily. I'll make sure she's taken care of," as I was leaving. She had been planning to dump her kid with my parents all along. She just needed me out of the way first, so they'd have no choice but to take care of Lily. According to my grandma, my parents were stressed as hell trying to raise a 5-year-old again. Dad was close to retirement, and Mom had her church volunteer work. They weren't prepared to be full-time guardians of a kindergartner, but they stepped up because what else could they do? It's not like they could abandon their grandkid. I felt terrible for Lily. None of this was her fault, and now she'd lost both her dad through the divorce and her mom, who had basically abandoned her. She lost me too, her aunt who she was really close with. Sometimes I'd drive by my parents' house just to see if I could catch a glimpse of her playing outside. I never got out of the car though. I was too afraid of running into my parents. Despite everything, I graduated on time. No family was there except Grandma, who came early to avoid seeing my parents. Zoe and her family cheered extra loud to make up for it, but it still stung, seeing everyone else taking family photos while I stood there with my makeshift support system. I got hired full-time at a sports medicine clinic where I did my clinicals. I bought a crappy used Honda Civic that made weird noises but got me from A to B without having to take the bus. Life went on. I made new friends at work. I started dating again. I was finally feeling like I had my shit together when something unexpected happened. I met this guy, I'll call Ryan. He came into the clinic for physical therapy after a skiing accident messed up his knee. He kept making these terrible jokes during our sessions like, "Is this what they call physical therapy or torture? Because I can't tell the difference." Eye roll. When he asked for my number after his final appointment, I actually thought he was just being friendly, but he called the next day and asked me out for coffee. We hit it off right away. He was easy to talk to, super considerate, and made me laugh, even when I was having a bad day. I was hesitant to tell him about my family situation. Most guys run for the hills when they hear the word drama, but about 3 months in, it came up naturally when he asked about my childhood. I gave him the abbreviated version. Sister framed me for theft. Parents kicked me out without investigating. Sister abandoned her kid with them. Instead of backing away slowly, Ryan was pissed on my behalf. He couldn't understand how parents could throw their kid out without even verifying the accusations. If someone accused my kid of something that serious, I'd at least check their bank statements before making them homeless, he said. His reaction made me feel validated in a way I hadn't before. Maybe I wasn't crazy for still being hurt and angry. Maybe what my parents did really was as messed up as it felt. After dating for about 8 months, Ryan suggested I try to see Lily again. He could tell how much I missed her from the way I talked about her. I was scared. Seeing Lily meant potentially seeing my parents, and I wasn't sure I was ready for that. But Ryan had a good idea. He suggested I reach out to my grandma and see if she could arrange a meeting at a neutral place, like a park or something. Grandma was thrilled with this plan. She'd been trying to get me to reconnect with Lily for months, saying the poor kid asked about me all the time. A week later, Grandma took Lily to the local ice cream shop for a special treat and texted me when they arrived. I was so nervous, I almost threw up in the parking lot. Ryan squeezed my hand and said, "You got this. It's just a little kid who loves you." When I walked in and Lily saw me, she screamed and ran straight into my arms. She was 6 by then and had gotten so tall. She told me all about kindergarten, her friends, and her new light-up sneakers, talking a mile a minute. I tried not to cry but failed miserably. This little kid, who I loved so much, had been collateral damage in her mom's selfish games. Lily was so excited to meet Ryan, too. She immediately started showing him all her stickers and asking if he liked dinosaurs. He said yes. Smart man. By the end of our ice cream date, she was calling him Uncle Ryan, which made both of us have some complicated feelings. As we were leaving, Lily asked when she could see me again. I looked at my grandma, unsure what to say. Grandma suggested, "Maybe we could do this again next week?" I agreed immediately. Lily made me pinky promise I wouldn't disappear again. That pinky promise changed everything. I realized I couldn't keep avoiding my parents if it meant missing out on Lily's life. She deserved better than that. She'd already been abandoned by her mom. She didn't need her aunt disappearing too. So, I made a decision. I texted my dad that night. "I want to see Lily regularly. I'm willing to coordinate drop-offs and pickups if you are." His response came almost immediately. "We should talk in person. Come for dinner tomorrow." I stared at my phone for a long time. Dinner at their house? Was I ready for that? I wasn't sure, but I knew one thing. I'd do anything for that little girl, even face the people who threw me away without a second thought. Ryan offered to come with me for moral support, but I felt like I needed to do this alone. I was a nervous wreck driving over, almost turned around 3 times. When I finally pulled up to my parents' house, I just sat in the car for like 10 minutes trying to calm down. There's something super weird about ringing the doorbell at the place where you grew up. Mom answered the door. She looked older somehow, even though it had only been about a year and a half. She went to hug me, but I stepped back. I wasn't ready for that yet. She got this hurt look on her face, but tried to cover it with a smile. "Lily's been so excited all day knowing you were coming," she said. Like that was the only reason I was there, which, honestly, it was. Lily came running down the stairs and tackled me in a hug. That little monkey could knock over a linebacker with her enthusiasm. Dad came in from the kitchen, looking awkward as hell. He tried for casual, dinner's almost ready. The weirdest part was how they were acting like this was just a normal family dinner. Like I hadn't been kicked out and cut off completely. Like they hadn't blocked my number in social media. Like they hadn't believed the absolute worst about me without a shred of evidence. We sat down to eat, and they started with small talk. I gave short answers and focused on Lily, who was telling me about her science project on butterflies. Finally, after dinner, when Lily went to watch TV in the living room, Mom brought out coffee, and Dad cleared his throat. "Here we go," I thought. "We want you to be part of Lily's life again," he said. "She misses you terribly." I nodded. "That's why I'm here. For her." Mom jumped in. "We've been thinking maybe you could take her sometimes on weekends, give us a little break. It's been challenging raising a young child at our age." I almost laughed. They weren't asking me here to reconcile or apologize. They wanted a babysitter. "So, you want me to help with Lily," I said slowly. "But we're not going to talk about what happened, about how you threw me out without even checking if Amber's accusations were true?" Dad shifted uncomfortably. That was a difficult time for everyone. Especially for me, I cut in. I was homeless during finals. I was working double shifts while doing clinicals. I lost weight because I couldn't afford food, all because you couldn't be bothered to verify something before destroying my life. Mom's eyes welled up with tears. Classic move. Cry so everyone focuses on comforting you instead of holding you accountable. "We made a mistake," Dad admitted. "We should have looked into it more, but you have to understand. The evidence seemed very convincing at the time." I shook my head. "No, I don't have to understand that. Parents are supposed to believe in their kids, or at least give them the benefit of the doubt. You didn't even give me a chance to defend myself. What do you want from us?" Mom asked, sounding frustrated. "We're admitting we were wrong. What more do you want?" I realized then that they didn't get it. They thought saying, "we made a mistake," was the same as a real apology. They thought I should just move on because they were willing to have me back in their lives, like I should be grateful for the opportunity. "I want to be part of Lily's life," I said firmly. "I'll take her some weekends, but let's be clear, I'm doing this for her, not for you. This isn't reconciliation. This is me being there for a little girl who deserves better than what she's gotten from this family." The hurt on their faces would have bothered me once. Now I just felt tired. We worked out a schedule. I'd pick Lily up every other Saturday morning and bring her back Sunday evening. As I was leaving, Dad tried once more. "We're still your parents," he said. "We still love you." I looked him straight in the eye. "Parents don't do what you did. Love doesn't act the way you acted." Then I left, got in my car, and cried all the way home. Ryan was waiting at my apartment with ice cream and a shoulder to cry on. After I told him everything, he said something that really stuck with me. "You know, you can have a relationship with Lily without having one with them. You're an adult. You get to decide what kind of contact you have with people who hurt you, even if they're family." He was right, and that's what I did. Over the next few months, I'd text my parents only about Lily, logistics, pickup times, drop-offs, stuff she needed for our weekends together. Otherwise, I kept my distance emotionally. No family dinners, no holiday gatherings, just brief hellos and goodbyes at the door. About 6 months into this arrangement, Ryan proposed. We were hiking at this beautiful state park, and when we reached this amazing overlook with the whole valley spread out below us, he got down on one knee. When I called Zoe to tell her, she screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. When I called my grandma, she cried happy tears and said she'd been praying I'd find someone who valued me properly after what my family put me through. I decided to tell my parents during a Lily pickup. When I arrived that Saturday, my mom immediately noticed the ring. "You're engaged?" she asked, surprised. I told her Ryan had proposed last weekend, and we were planning a spring wedding. My dad joined, offering a stiff congratulations. He seems like a nice young man. As I gathered Lily's things, my mom suggested a family dinner to celebrate. I ignored her and left. That night, as Lily snuck cheese while Ryan made pizza, she asked, "Now that you're getting married, will you be my mom instead of my aunt?" My heart clenched. "I'll always be your auntie, and Ryan will be your uncle for real. We'll be your family forever." She seemed satisfied, but her question lingered. After she fell asleep, Ryan and I agreed, no matter what happened with my parents, Lily would always have a stable, loving home with us. We had no idea things were about to get much more complicated. Things were going pretty well. I had my routine with Lily on alternating weekends. Ryan and I were planning our wedding for the spring, and I was keeping my interactions with my parents strictly business. Just logistics about Lily, nothing personal. Then, everything exploded again. It started with a text from my cousin Megan. We'd been close growing up, but had drifted apart after the whole getting kicked out thing. She'd sided with my parents initially, then tried to apologize once she realized I might not have done what I was accused of. I'd been polite but distant. Her text said, "You need to see this. Call me a sap, I was busy at work and ignored it." Then she sent another, "Seriously, it's about Amber. You need to see this." That got my attention. I called her on my lunch break. "Have you been on Instagram today?" she asked without saying hello. "No. Why?" Amber's friend Tasha had a complete meltdown online. She posted screenshots of text conversations with Amber from 2 years ago. About you. About what she did. My heart started racing. "What do you mean? What did she post?" "I'll send you the links. Just prepare yourself. It's bad." I went to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall before opening the links. What I saw made me physically ill. Tasha had posted a series of screenshots of text conversations with Amber from around the time I got kicked out. There was Amber admitting she photoshopped fake bank statements to frame me for stealing, bragging about creating fake text messages where I supposedly confessed, explicitly stating she was planning to dump the kid with mom and dad once I was out of the picture, and worst of all, laughing about how easily my parents believed her accusations without checking anything. It was all there in black and white, proof of her calculated betrayal. The most damning message read, "Parents totally bought it, LOL. They kicked her out same day. Didn't even check the bank or anything. Now, I just need to set up my escape plan, and I'll be free of all this family shit." I sat on that bathroom floor for what felt like hours, shaking. Here it was, proof of what I'd known all along. Amber had deliberately framed me to get me out of the way so she could abandon Lily with our parents. By the time I walked out of that bathroom, my phone was blowing up. Other cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone had seen the screenshots. They were all sending me messages of support and shock. The same people who'd called me a thief 2 years ago were now falling over themselves to say they always knew something wasn't right about Amber's story. I left work early, too rattled to focus. When I got home, I found my normally calm, level-headed Ryan absolutely livid after seeing the screenshots that were now circulating through all my social media. "You need to send these to your parents," he said. "They need to see what she did." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to rub it in their faces, "See, I told you." But another part was afraid of what would happen next. Would they expect forgiveness now? Would they think proof somehow erased what they'd done? Before I could decide, my phone rang. It was my dad. "Have you seen what's going around online?" he asked, voice strained. "Yes," I said simply. "We need to talk." "Can you come over?" "I don't think that's a good idea right now." "Please," he said, and his voice broke a little. "We need to talk about this in person." Against my better judgment, and with Ryan insisting on coming with me, I went to my parents' house that evening. Grandma was there too, sitting with Lily in the living room while the adults talked in the kitchen. My parents looked shell-shocked. Mom had clearly been crying, and Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. They both started talking at once when I walked in. We had no idea. If we'd known. "We can't believe she would—" I held up a hand to stop them. "I told you she was lying. I begged you to check the bank statements. I showed you my own accounts. You chose not to believe me." Dad looked down at his hands. "We were wrong, completely wrong." I waited for more, for an actual apology, for some acknowledgement of the harm they'd caused, but nothing came. Instead, Mom said, "But you have to understand. The evidence looked so real." "No," I cut her off. "I don't have to understand anything. What I understand is that you threw me out with 2 hours' notice during my final semester of college. What I understand is that you blocked my number and my email, so I couldn't even defend myself. What I understand is that you believe the worst about me without any investigation whatsoever. We made a mistake," Dad said weakly. "A mistake?" I laughed bitterly. "What you did was a choice. Multiple choices, actually, and those choices showed me exactly where I stand with you." Ryan squeezed my hand under the table, a silent show of support. "What do you want us to say?" Mom asked, tears in her eyes. "We're sorry. We were wrong. What more can we do?" I looked at her. They weren't sorry for what they'd done to me. They were sorry they'd been fooled. They were sorry they looked bad to the family now. They were sorry they'd been played, but they weren't actually sorry for how they treated me. "You know what?" I said slowly. "There's nothing you can say because this isn't actually about Amber. Yes, she lied. Yes, she manipulated you. But you chose to believe her without evidence. You chose to throw me out. You chose to cut all contact. Those were your choices, and they showed me exactly who you are as parents. Dad's face hardened. That's not fair. We were victims of Amber's lies, too. The difference, I said, standing up, is that you had a choice. I didn't. You chose to believe the worst about your daughter without any proof. What kind of parents do that? I turned to leave, but Mom grabbed my arm. What about Lily? She needs you. Don't worry, I'll still see Lily. I'll still take her on weekends. But this changes nothing between us. You haven't actually apologized for what you did to me. You've only expressed regret for being tricked. So, that's it? Dad asked. You're just going to cut us off after we admitted we were wrong? Admitting you were wrong isn't the same as apologizing for the harm you caused, I said quietly. And even if you did apologize sincerely, that doesn't obligate me to forgive you or pretend everything's okay now. I walked out, with Ryan right behind me. We stopped in the living room to say goodbye to Lily and Grandma, promising to see them that weekend as planned. As we drove home, Ryan asked if I was okay. I wasn't, not really. Having the truth finally come out should have felt vindicating, but mostly, I just felt sad. The next few weeks were chaotic. Amber had apparently seen Tasha's posts and deleted all her social media accounts. According to my grandma, she called my parents in a rage, accusing them of turning everyone against her and threatening to come take Lily. They had responded by filing for emergency guardianship of Lily, using the screenshots as evidence of Amber's intent to abandon her child. Meanwhile, the wedding plans continued. Ryan and I found a beautiful mountain resort for the ceremony and reception. His parents were incredibly supportive, offering to help with costs and planning. My grandma was thrilled and immediately volunteered to help with whatever we needed. When it came time to send out invitations, Ryan asked the question I'd been dreading, "What about your parents?" I thought long and hard about it. I decided not to invite them. It wasn't about punishment. It was about having people at our wedding who truly loved and supported us. People who had stood by me when things got tough, not just when it was easy or convenient. I wrote them a letter explaining my decision. I've thought a lot about whether to invite you to the wedding. I've decided that I can't. This day is about celebrating love and commitment with people who have shown those qualities consistently. While I will continue to maintain a relationship with you for Lily's sake, I'm not ready to pretend we're a happy family. The truth is, you hurt me deeply. Not just by believing Amber's lies, but by how quickly and completely you cast me aside, by how little investigation you did before deciding I was guilty, by how you blocked me from defending myself. Those actions showed me where I stand with you, and they can't be undone by Tasha's screenshots. I hope you can respect my decision and not try to insert yourselves into this event. I will continue to see Lily as arranged. I sent the letter and braced myself for the fallout. It came swiftly. Dad called, furious. So, this is your revenge? Excluding us from your wedding after we admitted we were wrong? I said calmly, it's a boundary. I'm inviting people who make me feel safe and loved. You don't qualify. I'm your father. I have the right to walk my daughter down the aisle. You gave up that right when you threw me out with 2 hours' notice and blocked my number for over a year. Mom got on the phone next, crying about how they'd suffered enough and how I was being deliberately cruel by excluding them from this important day. They didn't take it well. For the next few weeks, they tried everything: guilt trips, anger, sending other family members to plead their case. But I didn't budge. This was one area where I wasn't willing to compromise. Ryan's parents, bless them, offered to hire security for the wedding, just in case my parents decided to show up uninvited. No one should have to worry about family drama on their wedding day, his mom said kindly. The wedding day finally arrived after weeks of planning. Everything was perfect. A beautiful mountain venue, Lily practicing her flower girl duties, Grandma ready to walk me down the aisle. Ryan's parents arranged security, just in case, which turned out to be 100% necessary. An hour before the ceremony, my phone blew up with text from Ryan's mom. Your parents are here. They're demanding to be let in. Your dad is insisting he's walking you down the aisle. I called her immediately. Turns out my parents showed up with Amber, who apparently flew in from Florida just for this. They were telling security there was a misunderstanding and that they were expected guests. Dad was threatening to call the police, claiming we were kidnapping Lily. Complete bullshit. Grandma had written permission. I told security not to let them anywhere near the venue and to call the police for trespassing if necessary. I wasn't about to let them ruin my day. The ceremony started 20 minutes late, but was perfect otherwise. Ryan's dad walked me down the aisle. Lily scattered petals everywhere, mostly on guests, not the aisle. Ryan's face when he saw me is a memory I'll cherish forever. Right as we were pronounced husband and wife, my dad somehow got past the first security checkpoint and started yelling about father's rights and how he should be the one giving me away. Ryan's cousins, former football players, intercepted him before he got far. Talk about pathetic timing. The reception was amazing, just people who genuinely cared about us, celebrating together. I found out later that my parents and Amber tried to crash that too, and were escorted off the property, with my dad still yelling about how they deserved to be there and Amber filming everything on her phone. A month later, they tried to terminate my visitation rights with Lily through their lawyer, claiming I was an unstable influence with unresolved anger. Total lies about me bad-mouthing them to Lily and being erratic. Ryan's family lawyer assured us their case had no merit since I documented everything. They dropped it when they realized we'd fight back with evidence. Their next move, showing up unannounced at our house during their time with Lily, trying to guilt me into letting them in. After the third time, Ryan installed cameras, and we implemented a strict no unscheduled visits policy. It's been 6 months since the wedding. I still see Lily every other weekend, but pickups and drop-offs happen at Grandma's to avoid my parents. Amber's back in Florida, calling Lily maybe once a month for 5-minute conversations. Sometimes I still get angry about everything. How they threw me away based on lies, never truly apologized, tried to make my wedding about them, and used Lily as a weapon. But mostly, I feel sad for them. They'll never know their grandchild because they chose pride over a relationship with their daughter. That sadness doesn't mean I'll let them back in. I've built a good life without them. A loving husband, a successful career, a strong bond with Lily, a deeper relationship with Grandma, and in-laws who treat me more like family than my parents ever did. Sometimes the family you build is stronger than the one you're born into.